So when I finished art school, it wasn't like a gallery came and said, we're giving you a show and lots of money. It was like, instead, all my friends I studied with and knew from other schools as well, we just had to make our own shows. So we would do it in like an empty shop, or we would do it in someone's house, or
Ja, velkommen til denne spesialepisoden av Hva er kunst? Please present yourself.
Yeah, my name is Nikhil Vettukattil. I'm an artist living in Oslo. I was born in India and grew up in the UK. And I am both an artist and a curator.
Hva er kunst? Hjertelig velkommen til en ny spesialepisode her på Kunsthøyskolen i Oslo. Denne høyborga for å skape dyktige kunstnere og utdanne de på best mulig måte. Vi har gleden av å snakke med Nikhil Vettukattil, og han har en tilknytning til denne skolen på flere måter. Han har blant annet undervist og veileder her, og i den utstillingen vi sitter i nå, så har han sammen med sin kollega Lizia kuratert disse kunstverkene og andre som vi har rundt oss. Welcome to the podcast, Nikhil.
Thank you.
Is it for you very natural to sit in a gallery room like this and then talk among these artworks?
Yes, because for many, many years, my job was guarding exhibitions. So I would sit in the corner with a book and read while people came to visit the show. And I did that before in many different places.
What were you reading at that time? Was there anything in particular, or?
Oh, everything. Like I was reading novels, like also you get bored and you can't focus for very long. But I read a lot of like philosophy and theory and a lot of poetry and novels. And sometimes, the gallery you work in has books about the artists. So then I would read them a lot, and I really loved it because you spend more time than anyone would with these artworks, like sometimes hundreds of hours. And most people come to an exhibition for 5 minutes. So you really get to know the work and about the artist's life. And I got to look after some shows that luckily were like really influential for me. Like what, I would say like one was, Mike Kelly had an exhibition of this huge sculpture of a fountain that actually exists in LA. And that show was very popular, like 500 people a day would come to see it. And there were all these things that you didn't know about the sculpture, like underneath he had put a bed, like a mattress with a lamp, and he wanted people to go under the sculpture and hang out there. But people didn't know that, so I could tell people these kind of things. And then I read about why he decided to do that work and all about his life and how he got into art, and they had a little library with a video interview with him and stuff. So like spending a lot of time there was like really good to be like, oh yeah, is this what I'm into, or someone's life story as well?
Yeah. Nikhil, besides curating rooms like these and working, for example, here at the art school in Oslo, you are also an artist. Mm-hmm. Could you please present yourself?
Yeah. I am an artist who works with a lot of different materials like video and sculpture and performance. And I never planned to do art. I think it just kind of happened. I was into skateboarding and graffiti and like software, and so I got into animation and things like this when I was a teenager, and then I applied to do graphic design actually, because I was like, graphic designers that get paid and you get a brief and you know what you're gonna do, but then when I got to art school, like kind of like a after school project school and kind of thing, the graphic design teacher was like, your graphic design is way too weird. I was like making t-shirts with friends and stuff, and he was like, you will do better in the art course. And then in the art course they were like, you're not really a painter or a sculptor, so you can go in this other course which was called contextual practice. And then I got hooked because I just realized it wasn't really about, is this a good job to do or like these things, but I felt the people and the stuff we were watching and learning and was like, I was like, I feel very at home here. You know, like these are the kind of people I want to spend time with. And yeah.
And how would you describe those type of people? And I guess also yourself in a way.
I think very curious and open and not very, but also like with a lot, at least when you're like 18, 19, like a lot of desire to change things and do stuff and see where it takes you. And taking risks and like playing with the world in a way. Like that was in London and a lot of us had moved from small towns. Like I lived in Southampton and met like a lot of people who, you know, this was the first time without their parents living in a big city and like just figuring out what is culture, what is cool, what is a nice concert, you know, going and having these experiences together and talking about it and like, you know, like doing stupid stuff, just like wandering about the city, trying to get into places and do things there.
Would you still feel, do you still feel the same way about art and your artistic practice, or has it changed in a way?
It changes in a way that like is not the most important thing. I think like you get better at doing the professional thing, you know, like you learn like, okay, this is how it works. This is why these things are there. So you're less like intimidated. But the thing that I find more and more is like to remember that feeling of how I thought about art when I was really young and to capture that energy. Also, like, you know, the first time you see a film that makes like a really big impression on you, like, and just what it was, you know, like, yeah, something like this, you know, what it was for you and be like, how can I make that feeling again? You know, for someone else or for me, because, you know, like when you watch it again, it doesn't have it there. So it's like trying to, so in it, you know, like a lot has changed, obviously, like, you know, more, you know, the history and all of this, but like knowing what gives you the enthusiasm and not forgetting it, because sometimes art can be a struggle and you need to remember why you're doing it because it's not for money and it's sometimes, you know, people don't understand why you do it. Sometimes people don't like your work and have a problem with it. So it's like to remember, okay, why am I doing this? Why do I spend so much time alone in a studio making weird things that I then throw away or, you know.
And for you, why do you do it?
Because I think it gives you a lot of freedom. It also gives you a lot of unfreedom, but I think I think like I've done office jobs, like 9-to-5 jobs, and I just know I would never be happy. Like the stability and the security of like, you know, this thing that you're meant to do, which also doesn't exist. You know, nowadays you mostly don't get paid as well as like the previous generation and all of this. So it feels like I just knew that I couldn't really do something where I wasn't my own boss in a way or had some input into what we're doing. I couldn't just take some orders and do them really well if I didn't believe in the thing I was doing. And the easiest way to spend time doing things that I believe in is by doing them myself, you know? I like working in teams a lot and a lot of shows are collaborations, but I want to be able to choose the people I work with. And yeah.
Nikhil Vettukattil, you also, besides being an artist, you also do curating and put together other artworks in a way that makes artistic sense. Could you talk about the difference between, let's say, the artist, Nikhil, and the curator?
For me, they're very connected because I do a lot of other things than making my own work, which is like showing people other artists. So that would be like film screenings, or sometimes like a reading group, or inviting people to a studio for a crit. And I did all of these things while I was studying and also after. And it's sometimes like, you know, when there's a kind of art that you're really into, that people haven't seen, and you just want them to see it. So you're like, we have to make a show of this, you know? And I think coming not from Norway and feeling like there are things here that I don't know, but there are also things that I really want to share with people that I think would make an impact. You know, when I meet someone and I'm talking, it's like, have you seen this film? You would love this, you know, like, and then they're like, no, I don't know where to get it. And I'm like, I have a copy. We're going to do a screening at the studio, you know? So, and also when I finished art school, it wasn't like a gallery came and said, you know, we're giving you a show and lots of money. It was like, instead, all my friends I studied with and knew from other schools as well, we just had to make our own shows. So we would do it in like an empty shop, or we would do it in someone's house, or, you know, like wherever you can do stuff. So you can still make that community and have parties, and just doing a lot of like gigs and stuff like this as well, you know, like, because that's how you want to spend time. So it's kind of like, to me, artists are really good at making exhibitions, and I don't really think about myself as a curator necessarily, but more like an artist who makes shows, and that's helps me make better art.
We are at the moment in one of your shows that you have put together with your colleague Licia.
Yeah.
And could you please explain us a little bit about this process, which is a process where you have been invited, right, by the art school here in Norway, here in Oslo, to exhibit and put together artworks from the graduating master students and here.
Yeah.
So a little bit.
So basically, Lesia Vasylchenko, who is my co-curator, she studied here for 5 years. I never studied at Kyoto, but I was working here on some like text tutorials for students in the masters. And then Susanne Winterling, who runs the medium and material-based art course, knows both me and Lesia from around Oslo, because it's quite a small community, and we've had lots of conversations. And one day she told me in the canteen, I was thinking of asking Lesia to do this show. Would you also like to do it? Maybe it makes it easier for you because you're traveling a lot, to do it together. And I was like, yeah, of course, because me and Lesia have done lots of projects together, and we share a lot of the same values, and have also been making shows because we felt they need to happen and no one else was doing it. And so we were like, yeah, we'd love to do it, you know? And so that was about last summer, basically. So we've then spent like a year working on this, and it was really good to have this trust that they were like, we trust you, you know what you can do. Just come up with how you want this to work yourselves. And so we thought the way to do that was also to share that trust with the students, the artists, I should say, because we try and level that relationship, that it's like, that it's just our peers, you know, we're not that different in age. We're probably going to be around each other in Oslo, I hope, doing things for a long time. And so, it's a funny job because we had the same question. Like, normally a big part of curating is choosing the artists because of a topic. And then you have to find a space, or you have a space, and, you know, you choose where things go, and you make, sometimes some curators, they make like an argument, you know, they're like, this is good art and this show is going to show you why, and so on. But this is a bit different because we already know who will be in the show. We already know where it's going to happen. So then it becomes about something else, which is much closer to just taking care of the process. But also for us, it was really important to really get to know everyone, So that like it's not a list of artists anymore, but it's like, oh, it's Terje and it's Anne and it's Anna and it's, you know, like all these people. And we know why they're doing what they're doing and what they care about and what they want this show to be for, because there are many different reasons. You know, sometimes it's for a particular someone. Like Johanna's work is really, it has a special delivery to a person, but it's also for other people to see that relationship. Or like, you know, for another person, it might be really about sharing as much of the different things they do for an audience or to perform for to be seen, you know? So there are many different desires and to know what they are. And then from there to like, to work together. So what we did was we made this gigantic Telegram channel that all the students had access to, and we made different teams. There's like a team for the party and taking care of people while we install. There's a team that did invitations. There was a team for every single room. There was a team that did the painting before we come in, like making sure the rooms are clean. So, and then it was kind of like a DIY show, you know, like everyone had a lot of responsibility. We just decided things that are very difficult to decide as a group. So we decided the title. We decided how we're going to work together. But everything was a dialogue. It wasn't like we'd say like, we want to do the thing like this. And then someone would be like, have you thought about this? And we'd be like, okay, yeah, we need to change it. You know, so it wasn't top down. I hope it felt like that. And then, and then there's a lot of things you also just know as an artist or as someone who works in these spaces, like what looks good or like how to put something very different next to something else and create like a movement for the audience and a montage or like a collage of images, and knowing like what space people will go into first in this building because we spend a lot of time here, and knowing where is like a good surprise, like where to put it and so on, these kind of things. And then working that out in relation to, you know, where the student wants to be. If they've been thinking the whole course they're going to be in this room, maybe we should try and let them do that. And I think because we had that trust, all the artists, we had like a good relationship where they were also much more open, you know, because it wasn't hostile. It wasn't like, why you were putting me here? But instead like, okay, if you think it makes sense, let's try it. Let's look at it. And then a lot of like working together. Yeah.
Has there been anything, because this is a big exhibition, it's called Bli Noe Annet, right? Which you also are welcome to comment on the title that you chose, you and your colleague, but let's just sum up. It's a big exhibition consisting of multiple artists. This is just one of many rooms that's a part of this exhibition. Has there been anything that's challenging during the process?
Many things have been challenging, but they haven't been the most important things. You know, it's been all the practical things, the like, I don't know, someone not getting an email, the relationship with all the different teams that make exhibitions here possible, because I'm used to having more freedom in a way. There's a lot of things that need to be known much further in advance, so you have to send a plan and a floor plan, or you have to have lots of meetings to make things happen, and there are very strict rules, like you can't put that there because of fire safety or so on. So there were little things, you know, like also like I don't know, design problems with printing the booklets and finding someone and not having enough money, you know, like trying to make enough copies of everything. And, you know, suddenly it just gets very complicated. Like if you have to proofread the text and everyone writes a tiny 200-word paragraph, but suddenly you have 28 people, you suddenly have a lot of text to read and check that there's no mistakes. and you don't have someone to do that for you.
Is it, generally speaking, something that you would like to advise for, let's say, a young artist or generally just a young person that would like to go into curating or, as you say, put together shows? What advice would you give them?
Just start doing it. Don't ask anyone for permission. And I think learn through doing and don't worry about messing up. Because I think normally, it doesn't matter if someone is a professional. If you're really into an idea, you should go with it. And there's always room to take criticism, and it's good to be a bit humble in some ways, but it's also good to have a voice and not compromise. So I think art is a lot, like I often meet people who didn't go to art school, but they want to make an exhibition maybe, and they feel really intimidated to do that because they're like, oh, but I didn't go to art school and all of this. And I think something that you learn in art school, which is, if it goes well, is that just like confidence that, you know, you can not follow the rules and do things, and the consequences are not as bad as you think they might be, you know? So like if you're a young person who wants to make a show, just go do it. But like, don't think, oh, I need to apply for money, I need to have a degree, and then you know, like if that's the thing, if you just do it in your kitchen and you invite some people around, you know, like Finlay, who was in the show, ran a gallery in a car park after he graduated, which was just basically a poster or like, you know, something, and then told people to come. So it can be anything.
What is something that people misunderstand about art?
I think there's so many things people misunderstand. I don't know. You know, like there are probably things I misunderstand. It's also maybe something that I find useful is it is such a big field. I think in a way it's the place where society puts a lot of things it doesn't know where else to put. Can happen because art is so flexible that it's sometimes the problem is people try and compare everything as if it was the same thing because it's called art, but art is actually a million different things all hanging out together, you know? So I think, you know, when you compare I don't know, like a Rembrandt painting from hundreds of years ago with contemporary art, you're like, these are not the same thing, but that's because they're not, you know, like, and allowing things to be different. Maybe that relates also to the title, because we wanted to pick something, you know, it's not like Bli Noe Annet, but it's Bli Noe Annet. So like in English, I would translate that not as to become something else, which is very passive, but more like shouting at you on a poster, become something else than what you are. It doesn't tell you what that thing will be, but I think going back to this idea of like the people I met in art school that inspired me, it's because they wanted things to be different, but they didn't know what that would be. But that desire is really interesting. I think when you meet people who are like, I want to change, I want to grow, I want to experience new things, and I'm going to do it through this making. That's kind of one way you could read the title.
Great. Nikhil Vettukattil, thank you so much for this talk, and for congratulations also with this great show.
Thank you.